Hey friendlies, it's Carolyn and Capone, and welcome back to our RV life. It is the middle of January, I don't know, January 25th in Arizona. And look, I think I got a suntan today. It's gorgeous. I moved camp yesterday. I left Quartzsite, Arizona after spending about 10 days in the area at the RTR. And I am feeling free for the first time in what feels like months. I have nothing ahead of me. It was kind of a weird feeling to drive away from Quartzsite. And I'm like, I don't really know where I'm going or where I'll be next month. I shot a great video that I think you're gonna like, a day in the life of an RVer, and I shot my full day, packing up camp, running my errands, and finding a new camp. And I'm gonna post that as soon as I'm no longer here because it gives a lot of information. So look for that. I think you're gonna really enjoy it. But today, because I moved camp and I'm here in the BLM land in Arizona, I wanted to make a video for you showing you how I find places to camp. He's on guard. I don't know what he smells. One of the questions I get asked the most is, how do I find places to camp? Today I'm going to talk about the tools I use to find boondocking locations. And then the second part of the video is going to be about stealth camping. So for me, boondocking means coming out to public lands and finding places to camp legally, following their rules. And stealth camping is what I do in more urban areas when I need to be in town or whatever. How do I find a place to park that's under the radar without having to go to a crowded RV park? So those are the two things I am going to cover today. Number one, boondocking. A couple of my favorite resources for finding free campsites are freecampsites.net and Campendium, and I'm gonna post links to both of those in my description. So those are two really great resources. They are websites that you log on to, and I don't think they have apps, but you can use them on your cell phone. They might have apps, I don't remember. And you can use them on your cell phone, plug in the city or town that you're in, and it'll show you places that other boondockers have been reported to either free campsites or Campendium. And I love those resources because, number one, they have great information that tells you, in almost any area that I have been in, they tell you places that you can camp for free. Number two, they usually tell you what kind of conditions they are, what size rig it would accommodate, so I know before I even go if it's good enough most of the time, if I can get there with my 29-foot RV. And oftentimes, because people who've been there post reviews sometimes, some of them will even tell you how the cell signal is there. So they'll say Verizon 4G 3 bars, Verizon 4G 2 bars, or no internet. They'll tell you if there's services, if there's water, and things like that. So those two websites have been really, really helpful for me. And like yesterday, I ended up not where I thought I was going to. I just kind of wandered aimlessly and ended up someplace completely different. And by the end of the day, I didn't feel like exploring. So I just went on to freecampsites.net and found an area and found a great campsite. And so actually, I think I'm going to be here for a few days. So those are two websites that you can use. Another great resource is an app called Public Lands. And I've only used that a couple of times, but I do want to use it more. Basically, it finds your location and it shows you an overlay map of public lands around you. And what that does is, you know that BLM land and National Forest land have dispersed camping. So you use this app to show where you are and what public lands might be around you to go explore to find places to camp. So that's another one. My favorite is Google Earth. Free campsites and Campendium are great basically in a pinch. What I don't like about those is it's public information and they're limited areas, and it's very rare that I find one that I have all to myself. In fact, some of them can be downright crowded and awful. Has been my experience outside of Klamath Falls. you know me, I'd rather go remote. I'd rather be alone, out by myself. The fewer people I see, oftentimes the better. So Google Earth and Google Maps are my go-to resource when I really just want to get away. For example, let's say I'm heading to Baker, California. I can use Google Maps to see if there might be some remote areas around, if there might be a national forest around or a regional park, and then I can use Google Earth to explore an area further. I love Google Earth because I can get right down to the road. So for me, in a 29-foot Class C, being able to see the road is really important. It gives me a good idea whether or not I would be able to drive on a road. So Google Earth and Google Maps have been a wonderful resource for me when I feel like and I have the time to explore. I might just go to an area that looks remote and just drive around and see what I can find. Sometimes I drive around a lot and don't find anything. So, so you really kind of have to have an adventurous spirit to do that, and you have to be able to kind of go with the flow and go to plan B or plan C if you can't find anything. But I like doing that because it gives me the exploration that I like, and I get to see an area, see places that I wouldn't normally see. Sometimes I find a great camping spot. Actually, oftentimes I do. Sometimes I don't, so I have to go to a backup plan. But so for boondocking, those are the resources: freecampsites.net, campendium.com. Great resources. They list free campsites and paid campsites too, oftentimes. But usually free and cheap are the ones that they focus on. And then a public lands app. And again, I'll put all this information in the description. And Google Maps and Google Earth. And also, those are the ones I use, but there's atlases, there's maps, there are all kinds of paper resources. I use technology. And I haven't had a problem with being in an area and not having cell signal, and if I do, I just drive around. But those are the resources that I like to use. There are great atlases and great maps out there that show public lands, and you could use those if you prefer paper. But I share my experience. I share what I know. All right, so let's talk about stealth camping. Someone challenged me the other day and said, parking in a 29-foot Class C, you're not stealth camping. Well, I beg to differ. If I am parked in an urban area overnight and I get away with it, in my opinion, I've been stealthy, right? I mean, because most urban areas frown upon people sleeping in their vehicles. And I've done it. And sure, my rig may not be stealthy. I mean, you can see it. But if I can be stealthy within it and get away with camping someplace overnight, that's stealth camping in my humble opinion. So I don't know if I've told you guys this yet, but I've written it in my blog. When I first started living in an RV, I took the hobo vagabond thing to the extreme, and I'm like, woohoo, laws don't apply to me. I'm an outlaw. And so, yeah, I thought I was invisible. I did kind of think maybe no trespassing signs sometimes did not apply to me. But that's just who I am. I push limits. I'd rather ask forgiveness than permission type of person. It's just in my DNA. It's who I am. I am a risk taker. It's not for everybody. And with being a risk taker, sometimes wonderful things happen. And sometimes I get in a little bit of trouble and bad things happen. But I deal with those. For me, that's just part of the adventure, regardless of the outcome, whether it's positive or negative, I always have a great story. And that's how I look at it. And so, yes, I'm a risk taker. And when I first came out, I thought no trespassing signs don't apply to me. I was quickly educated by security officers and police officers that no, you are not invisible, and yes, laws do apply to you. But I learned a lot in those first few months about how to stealth camp, yes, even in a 29-foot RV. So I'm going to share some tips with you if you are in an urban area, how you might be able to get away with sleeping in your RV, van, camper, or whatever in an urban area. Number one, warehouse districts are great. They get truck traffic, and they're big and they're wide, and so most warehouse districts actually, and sometimes I've even been in really quiet warehouse districts, but the thing is, they're used to trucks And they usually accommodate that. There's only been a couple of cities, Woodland, California being one of them, where my car used to be stored, that had throughout the whole city no parking signs in all the warehouse districts. So that was a challenge. But most of the time, a warehouse district, even if it's empty and quiet, there's nobody down there, so you can park there successfully overnight. The only problem I ever had was when I parked in an actual driveway parking lot of an empty warehouse. It was for lease. And the first security guard said, yeah, you're fine here. The next shift came in the middle of the night and said, yeah, you can't be here. He did let me stay. Most of the time, this is where being a single woman comes in handy, and they want to take care of me. They want to make sure I'm safe. So he did let me stay. But if you're looking for a place to stealth camp in an urban area, look for a warehouse district. So it might be loud, and I feel really comfortable around truckers. Some people call me crazy, but the way I look at it, nobody's gonna mess with me with a bunch of truckers around. And my ex-husband was a truck driver. I mean, most truck drivers are family men, married, you know, they're not gonna hurt me. And so I usually feel a little protected when there are trucks around. There are warehouse districts that are just completely empty and barren at night. And that can be good too, because they're nice and quiet, and depending on how comfortable you are being in an urban area where it's really quiet. So how do you find a warehouse district? Well, I learned, being in cities that I had no idea where I was or what was in the city, I was kind of on my phone going, okay, how can I find a warehouse district? And I had an idea. I Googled warehouse space for lease. Commercial realtors are listing their warehouse spaces for lease with an address. And that is how, in several instances, I was able to find the warehouse district to camp at. So warehouse districts have been really a good place for me to stealth camp. Apartment complexes. So while you can't park within the apartment complex, there's usually plenty of street parking outside or around the complex. And as you know, in many cities, apartment complexes are kind of clumped together. So where you may not be able to park in a residential neighborhood because nobody wants my Heisenberg RV parked right in front of their house all night, it's going to raise red flags and the cops are going to come and they're going to tell you to move along. An apartment complex is a much more transient community. People don't know each other. It's not as established. There are always people coming and going. They don't have the room. They don't have the parking. So it wouldn't be unheard of to see an RV parked on the street outside of an apartment complex. And the same thing as with the warehouse. Google or go to Craigslist and look for apartments for rent. And you're gonna be able to identify the complexes, especially on Craigslist. They're always really easy to identify. So go drive through those and find a place to park. Make sure it's a good one. You know, you don't wanna be in a dangerous area. So make sure it's a good apartment complex where you're gonna feel safe. I've also had good luck in community college parking lots. With this caveat, you need to be careful, school is not in session. In Northern California, I found a couple community colleges with big open parking lots. On Sunday, in off-season, I was able to park there and get free Wi-Fi. So you might want to check the website to see when school is in session. Also check the website maybe to check the hours of campus police. Yeah, that's a trick. In Woodland, again, where my car was, I knew that campus police closed at 10 o'clock. So I knew that after 10 o'clock and between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., I could go park there when campus police wasn't on. And I stayed there actually several nights and had Wi-Fi, and it was a good situation for me. So you really do just want to make sure that you're aware of the rules of the campus police. Sometimes you might think it's summer, school is not in session, but you want to double check, because I did get kicked out one time when I thought school wasn't in session, and it was. Medical office complexes are also really good places to park. They're closed at night. Usually it's kind of almost like warehousey, except they're medical offices. And there's nobody there at night. Nobody's patrolling it usually. And I've had really good luck just finding medical offices. Those are often around the hospitals. And I've heard people say that they've been able to stay in hospital parking lots. I haven't tried it, but medical offices have been successful for me. You can also try city parks, community parks. I've stayed in a couple parking lots overnight in regional park areas and city park areas. You just want to look and make sure they don't have a gate that's going to get closed on you. You know, make sure there aren't no parking signs overnight. I have found some that didn't say you couldn't park overnight. You can also park on the street near city parks. So those are some other areas that I have had success with. So stealth camping, I'm not going to tell you how to stealth camp. This is about where you can find places to stealth camp. So let's review stealth camping. Warehouse areas, apartment complexes, community colleges, medical offices, and community or city parks. Again, there are other websites out there that can, 24-hour grocery stores. Of course, there's always Walmart. I am here to share with you what I have done and what has worked for me. And those are the places that I have actually successfully been able to stealth camp in without getting kicked out. So now let's talk about what not to do, because again, I learn everything by process of elimination. I do the wrong stuff first to get to the right stuff. It's the story of my life. When you're stealth camping or boondocking, what you do not want to do not park on private property. They don't mess around. I don't think I've ever successfully stayed on private property. I think I've tried 2 or 3 times and I have been asked to leave 2 or 3 times. Even when you think nobody is looking, somebody's looking, because I've gotten asked to leave. Very politely. People are very nice about it. Again, I'm a single woman, so people don't give me too much of a hard time about it. Often, actually, I had a farmer outside of Grants Pass who told me I had to go, and I actually didn't know I was on private property. It was outside of a warehouse district. And I said to him, I'm sorry, I was just looking for a safe place to sleep. I didn't want to be at the truck stop. And he said, well, this isn't safe either. But if you feel safe, that's okay. And he let me stay. So, and again, just being nice human being and kind. People usually respond to me pretty well, even when I'm breaking the law. Yeah. Strip malls in big cities, those are not good places. So I'm talking about places you do not want to stealth camp. I have been kicked out by security. So in highly populated areas, most strip malls have their own security, especially in areas, this was in a suburb of Sacramento, that are high crime areas, and I really didn't know it at the time. But I tried to kind of sneak in the back of the strip mall and hide in the shadows, and within 5 minutes, security came and kicked me out. He was very nice about it. He gave me a place, Walmart actually, that I could camp, but you want to be really careful in larger metropolitan areas and bigger cities about strip malls, any place, or even in office complexes, any place that you suspect might have private security. You probably would get a knock on the door in the middle of the night. And respect no parking signs. I do respect no parking signs because I'd rather not have run-ins with police officers or get ticketed or get towed. So you definitely want to avoid places that have no parking signs. And as I said earlier, you want to avoid residential neighborhoods. Anybody parked in a van or an RV outside of a residential neighborhood, especially with a neighborhood watch program, you're going to get noticed. I did stay kind of on the outskirts of one night. I think a police officer pulled up behind me because there was a bright light on me for a while, and then they just pulled away. So I don't know if they just ran my plates. I was in California, not far from home, so they could have just ran the plates and decided I was okay and decided to leave me alone. But residential neighborhoods are going to raise red flags, so do not park in residential neighborhoods. Okay, to recap what not to do. Don't park for stealth camping. Don't park on private property. Try to avoid strip malls. Don't ignore no parking signs. And I wouldn't recommend trying to park in residential neighborhoods unless you're at a friend's. I've actually parked on the street at a friend's house, but I plug into his house and use his water, and people see me coming and going, and the neighborhood is cool. So if you have a friend, that's a different story. But if you're just a stranger pulling up, you're probably going to get booted. So there you go. I wanted to create this video to share with you how to find free camping, whether you're in public lands like I am here in beautiful Arizona right now, or whether you are in an urban metropolitan area. I wanted to share with you the tips on what I have learned in my 9 months of experience doing this. Like I said, I'm a risk taker, so I kind of get a crash course in everything I do. I learn, you know, and that's the beauty of my life. I make mistakes, but I learn a lot, and I have a lot to share. So I hope that helped you. I hope it inspired you to get out there and boondock and stealth camp and enjoy your free life. Hey, I will see you next time. I love you guys. You're wonderful. You're awesome. You're amazing. And I will see you next time. Please be happy, be free, and be kind from both of us. Okay, so here's my lovely spot. I had to hike up here to shoot this video because I wanted to get this scene. But here, I'm going to turn around. You're just sick of looking at me. Check out the scenery.